My name is Damilola Onosowobo. I'm an oil painter, a visual artist, an architect, a designer, serial entrepreneur. I have always had a flair for art in general. I've always been very creative. I grew up as a very creative, expressive child. So I'll say I've always sort of been an artist in just different ways. I was the kid at school who, when you have a creative assignment, you run to, please help me with my homework and all of that stuff. A couple of years ago, I just decided to paint again. I painted and I put it online, and I think people just like the work, and here I am. My earliest artistic memory, I remember one time in school, in primary school, I saw a textbook, one of these Simbi, Ali, whatever goes to school. And I basically redrew a lot of the scenes that I thought were missing. So, you know, they'll have like a scene for like the story. So maybe Ali was on the bus and Ali went somewhere. I would draw my own version of what that looked like. I think that's the earliest one I can remember. I don't know if I have a greatest artistic influence, to be honest. I have many influences, many great influences. I love Njideka, Akunyili's work. Her work just makes me feel at home, and I think similarly I try to evoke such emotions in my work. Half the time I'm looking forward at like what's next. So I tend to resonate with people who have a sense of the past in the things they do. To be honest, it's fun to do things, like it's fun to create, it's fun to build, but you're constantly in this space where you're envisioning. Half the time it comes to be, but you're constantly dreaming. And I think memories are very powerful, because with memories, you've already been there. It's familiar. Each time I remember something, it's not as vibrant as it once was. And I think there's something about caging them in my work that makes me very happy. My work is like my happy place. When I'm not dreaming, I think remembering is important for me. Remembering that girl who was once carefree, who lived that life. Sometimes, even lives that I have not lived, like remembering things that maybe my parents experienced. I didn't live the life. Somehow it feels like I could touch it. There's just something about the past that intrigues me. I'm very future forward, don't get me wrong. And a lot of times when I look at my work and I look at the images I'm creating from the past and all of that, I still have a future forward thinking in how I approach the work in terms of like the visual outcome. I'm always trying to outdo what I've done previously. So there's still that, but what makes it home for me is this sense of it's a memory that I'm freezing in my work, an emotion that has passed that I'm holding on to. The colors in my work, I've never actually sat down to really process it. But oftentimes, when it feels too vibrant, too present, it always feels out of place for me. And I think it ties back to this idea that it has happened, it's a memory. You're trying to touch it, you're trying to hold it, but it's not quite there anymore. And I think there's something about taking just a little bit away from the vibrancy of the colors and using them in such a faded yet present way. Gives my work a lot of personality and allows to convey the emotions I want. That said, in some of my recent work, I've sort of tried to play with vibrancy. I think, is it possible? I would think it is. So I found an old photo of my mom. I think it was taken on one of these old Polaroids, and it was so vibrant. The weirdest contrast, like it was green, it was vibrant, but it still felt old. It didn't belong in this time. So I think of recent I've been exploring how can you have that same level of saturation in the hues but still hold on to the past. And I think I do that with the technique where you sometimes can't make out the forms but you can see them. So I'm playing with depth in that sort of way and texture to create that sense that it's not something you can quite hold on to, but I'm trying out new vibrant colors because why not? My creative process is very simple. I don't overthink anything. Oftentimes I find that when I overthink something or when I have such a deep concept, I lose the thing about the work that makes it mine. I go to my work for safety, and much of my other life is thinking. Run several businesses, I'm always thinking. So with my work, I just mostly feel. I see something, I experience something, I say that would look good as a painting. I find my references, play around with them, see how I could give it my own artistic impression or expression. And that's basically it. But when it comes to the technique of the work, I'm very fascinated by, I think there was a period in art where a lot of realists sort of, I would say they became one with their brushes. Like there was a time where people would have these layer techniques where they would glaze and paint over months, and there was a time where these artists, you're sitting down on the spot, they're painting a portrait of you. I draw a lot of my technique from that, where you have these angular cubic shapes that you blend over time. Like what I spend time doing with my work is refining, but half the time getting the work from mind to canvas, that happens relatively quicker because I like my brush strokes to do their thing. I like my work to come across as very painterly. I don't want it to be a photograph. I want it to be a painter's work. My artistic style is careful, considered, but free. That's the best way to explain it. That makes it a bit more deliberate because it's so easy for the work to look careless. I have to be very careful and considerate about every stroke I put on the canvas. But that said, I still let the work feel free, almost like a sketch. My work comes across as a sketch, even though it's a full-on painting. When it comes to messaging with my work, I think a lot of the ideas I have just about what is ideal comes across. A lot of the times when you see the women in my work, they usually have some sort of black hair, whether it's an afro or braids or something. I wouldn't call it messaging, to be honest, but I want to reflect very, very genuine, authentic feelings in the work. So when I'm thinking about how do I want to represent people who look like me, that comes across in the work as well. So they're living, they're doing their life, they're at their birthday party, they're hanging with family, but in the light that I would like people like me to be seen. I don't necessarily try to drive any strong philosophical ideas or political messages with my work. Some people may see my work and get that. That's fine. I'm open to whatever it evokes in anyone. Success for me is being able to touch as many people as possible with my work. I find myself very, very unaware of what the trajectory of a successful artist could be. Like, it's the last thing on my mind, to be honest. I just want my work to have impact. I want my work to be something that keeps me on the planet even when I'm no longer here. One of the things that has always bothered me as a designer is reference to art and design history. I think with art we even do a better job, but there's so much of who a people are that is lost. You see this in movies, in how we carry ourselves, when there's not a strong connection with what is us from a very visual and artistic standpoint. And I think that art allows us to connect ourselves. So much of what we struggle with as a society, not everything. A lot of times to take care of a society, what it takes to build a society comes from deep care for it. Sometimes self-sacrificial care, and a lot of that is missing, and you can't just preach to people. Art is one of the ways that people can connect deeply to who they are. I've had interesting milestones as an artist. I do remember the exhibition Careless. I think that was very interesting because it was so nice to see my work hanging up on the walls. So I think that was major for me. Also quite liked the one at Hofa. I think that was also very good for me. There's so much spontaneity with this body of work that I'm presenting. I had this big vision of what I wanted to do. I had everything mapped out, planned out, but when it came down to executing, I just felt disconnected. I just decided, just chill. Like, just chill. It's at X, it's a big platform, but just chill. And I think that's what I did with the work. a lot of the subjects, there's a bit of melancholy, there's a bit of peace, there's a bit of calmness, there's a bit of just the mundane in the work. And that's what I wanted to capture, the feeling that I gave myself when I was overthinking what I was going to do, stressed out about it, just chill. And I think that's what I'm doing with the work. I really like Pinktel because I connect so much with it. Out of all the pieces, the first one that I made, and once I was halfway through the painting, I felt like this is it. So I'd struggled with the theme, and then finally I had this one. So the most challenging thing for me, I think, once I got through the hurdle of the theme, what do I want to paint, all of that, I think it will be trying to stay true to my style, but also pushing myself, because every opportunity for me with the work is an opportunity to do better. There's a lot of pressure, self-imposed pressure to push my style further, but maintaining the thing about my style that makes it resonate, the thing about my style that makes it me. The easiest part about creating these works for me was the flow state I got in. The theme is familiar, it's different, slightly different. Most of the times I paint pairs of people or more. The thing that I want people to feel is that life is enough. I want people to feel that way. There's this sense that we all have to be extraordinary. I suffer from it myself. The ordinary is never enough, and I think that it is. Ordinary should be celebrated, and I hope that my work can give them a moment to celebrate the ordinary, to observe, to appreciate, and see beauty in it. The biggest lesson I've learned in my art career is that time is beautiful. It's okay to let things breathe. It's okay to chill, to let things be. Another lesson that I've learned is that going along with as many people as possible is great. So grateful to you guys, Affinity Art Gallery. I think you can go further with more people on your team, more people on your side, and I'm grateful for that.